Monday. What a weekend. What a freaking weekend. Woo. It was fun. I was with my friends in person, including the two that you're looking at right now or listening to if you catch it later, Kratz and Pierzynski. AJ, did you have a blast? And how cool was it to stream that whole event for the first time? It's been done 100 times, the BBWAA Awards Dinner. We had all the big guests. I saw you do a nice little job hustling to grab some of them. But your overall thoughts and grades for the weekend?
Oh, the weekend overall was an A+. Not only for the awards dinner, but getting to see friends, old and new, guys I played with, guys I played against, guys I worked with, like David Cohn, who I don't get to see very often anymore. And I'll be honest, as a player, I had no idea that was a thing. I just thought there was like an awards thing where they just hand you your Cy Young and they hand you your MVP and they hand you your manager. I had no idea it was a whole dinner and a whole experience like it was. So it was awesome to be there in person. And you know what? I got to have a great weekend. I went to some of the best restaurants in New York. I got into one of the hardest ones in the world last night. It's called Corner Store, and had dinner there last night. So thanks to Ken and thanks to Mark for paying for my weekend.
Yeah. We took the boys out to dinner on Friday, obviously, or the group out to dinner on Friday. Obviously, not Kratz because he was local, so we saw you Saturday. But just want to shout out the writers, the players, and we're going to show a mix of some of the conversations that we had from over the weekend. You can, of course, catch all of that on our socials, YouTube, etc. But we'll show you like a little recap video, and then we are going to run in full the Paul Skenes conversation later on in the show, and we'll run the Barry Bonds conversation tomorrow. So you can catch a lot of that, and you can get it if you know where to find it early. But we're also going to run it for the TV crowd.
When was the last time Barry talked to anybody about anything?
It's a great question. Years, right? Years since I've seen him sit down with anyone. And I'm talking years and years. Have you seen any sit-down interviews at all with Barry Bonds? And we had him for 10 minutes? I don't think so. I don't think we've had anything. And he was awesome.
I saw him at Rickwood, right? Him and I think Griffey maybe were together, and it was real quick, though, on Fox when they did the Rickwood game last year because Willie had just passed, and so they had Barry there and did a whole thing. But that's the first time, and we were super lucky. So thank you, Barry, if you see this, because I know you watch our clips because you showed me on your phone. You had my clips, and you said that I was telling the truth. So thank you about some of those stories. But I haven't seen him do a sit-down anything, and it's been years and years. And I think one of the reasons he did is obviously I played with him, but he also knows he can trust us on the show because we're not going to put him in a situation that puts him in a bad spot. And he was very open about a lot of stuff. And if you haven't seen the video, you watch it tomorrow. And if you ever want to know anything about hitting, in 10 minutes, he gave like his 5 biggest keys to hitting. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then there was news too over the weekend. We hit some of that during the award show, but let's re-rack it right now because we've got a trade. Let's charge. Charging the mound. Cubs got themselves a little closer, Kratzy. Ryan Pressly from Houston over to Chicago. He waives the no trade, and Chandler Roma has been all over this story. Crush City Territories got episodes up. They're going to do a combo episode with Northside Territories. So if you want to learn a lot more about how this impacts the Cubs, how it impacts Houston, Kratz, Pressly's bona fide clutch. Obviously, maybe not the same exact stuff as it was from a few years ago, but this is the part that stands out that we're looking at on the screen right now. Gave up a low-level prospect, the Cubs did, and then pick up their closer plus $5.5 million to cover some of the 14. So they just got themselves an $8.5 million closer that I guess, you could put that price on the marketplace. And I would have been surprised if Ryan Pressly was a free agent and got just one season and $8.5 million. But that's what the market says. Clearly if a team called them and said, I'll give you, I'll pick up 12 out of 14, the Astros would have entertained the conversation. I'm surprised that the value is there for Pressly, and I think he's going to have a monster year for the Cubs.
Yes, the stuff isn't there, but the results are still there. And you can never – obviously the Cubs, with this move, with the Tucker move, I think they want to make the playoffs. Whether we think they did enough or not, solidifying the closer role, let alone at $8.5 million, like Juan Brito must be a stud, because to me, if I'm another team, I'm sitting there going, we need a closer, want a closer, whatever our situation is. How did we not get an opportunity at this? Like, this seems like a really sweet deal for the Cubs, and good job by Presley, still wanting to be a closer, being okay leaving his home, leaving where he spends essentially all the time except for spring training.
My biggest thing is this free up money for them to go get Alex Bregman? Why do they need to trade Ryan Presley? I didn't feel like this was a necessity unless they want to up their offer to Alex Bregman and try to get him to come back. That's the only thing I can see this for. Presley's been a valuable guy. I know he wasn't happy once they got Hader, but he still did a nice job for him. Going to the Cubs, he's going to slide right into the ninth inning in his free agent year again. So, and he got a little money to, work the tax stuff out. And he got another no trade. So just because he got traded, he still gets the no trade in Chicago. So this was a win-win for Ryan Presley. And if the Astros, if it helps him get Alex Bregman, this was a good trade for the Astros.
I will say Chandler Rome referred to what you're talking about this morning as the Astros shopping him the entire offseason. So he was like, it's not as if they're at the 1 yard line. They've got this deal with Bregman. They just have to trade away Presley and free up some extra money for 2025. But I am with you. That still could happen, right? It was
but this will help, right?
This
has been a free agent all offseason, and they've been trying to trade Ryan Presley all offseason. Alex Bregman. Yeah, I mean, of course he would call his return, but this is called negotiations, right? As re-engaged, but called his potential return a long shot. Yeah, you know what? That's called negotiations through the media. Yeah, it's cracked. I mean, come on. Let's be honest here. It puts a hole in the bullpen, but if the hole is filled by Alex Bregman, it'll work. I just don't know why they would trade Ryan Presley when they had Abreu, Presley, Hader, 7, 8, 9. Now they got to find somebody to fill that role. Who will it be? I don't know. Maybe they'll go out and sign somebody if they don't sign Alex Bregman, but it's getting to be kind of slim pickings now.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, Kratz, I think the Astros feel like they're still in good shape with their bullpen, whether that's accurate or not. I mean, this was set in stone for them. If someone's going to take X amount of money and Ryan Presley's going to say, okay, then we're going to do this. So here's what we're looking at. And obviously the two at the top stand out a ton. Josh Hader is one of the best closers in baseball. Brian Abreu has been one of the best relievers in the sport for the last few seasons. And then there are a lot of names that have some potential, but don't necessarily scare you here. I mean, I think Ort had a nice year last year, right? Taylor Scott was really good for them last year. So I think they figure that they're going to be able to piece this together, because some organizations are really good at building bullpens and some organizations generally don't do a good job. Houston's been pretty solid in that department for a while, which is part of why they've been so good over the past decade plus. It's probably the most underrated part of what they put together. Everyone knows the core. Everyone knows some of the big name starters, but if you have an absolute crap bullpen for years, it's not working. And up until Hader just now, it's not like they were spending like crazy to put this bullpen together. They took care of the guys they were supposed to take care of. Ryan Presley is one of them. And they also made a mistake with Rafael Montero, who has not worked out for them since that big season when they won the World Series in 2022. But I think they're not concerned based on past success that they've had with their arms.
That's the big thing. What do the Astros do? If you sum it up, besides winning, they don't strike out when they're hitting, and they strike everybody out when they're pitching. So if they felt like they could get rid of Presley, because it's really only coming down to $8.5 million, that's not even close to what you'd think you would need to get another big piece, like a Bregman piece. So if they knew they could get rid of Presley and put somebody else in there, maybe Ort has another great year, so that's a huge pickup. Maybe Montero makes the team and he figures something out. They figure out how to minimize strikeouts when they're hitting and to maximize strikeouts when they're pitching. So they feel like they can cover it, I guess, because they have a closer. They have a bona fide closer in Josh Hader, who's willing to throw 2 innings too. So it's kind of a new piece for him in there.
All right, so then let's get to the next layer. Let's push forward.
But I disagree with that. I disagree with that because those guys are unproven. We should the list. I mean, those guys aren't proven guys like Ryan, like Presley was, like Ryan Presley was. So I mean, Abreu and Hader and the rest of Whitley was a big prospect, never really panned out, got hurt. The rest of these guys aren't really proven guys. Ort's been around a little bit. Montero is, but didn't they DFA him last year? Or didn't they do something to him? Right? So,
yeah.
I mean, who would look nice there? Mayton would look nice coming back there. Isn't he still a free agent?
I think he's still out there.
I mean, he did really well for them. He'd be a nice fit for them. I just don't think this. I think this opens up money, $5.5 million. I get that, but I mean, that's $5.5 million more they can offer to Alex Bregman, maybe on a short-term deal. Maybe Bregman comes back for 1 year. I don't know, but I just don't know why Houston would do this unless Ryan Pressly was that unhappy.
I think they know what they have. I think they know what they have in those unproven pieces. I don't see Ryan Pressly being that upset. But hey, you know what? We're obviously just conjecture because we don't know what he's feeling. But to me, they have to know what they have. It's similar to a team that's claiming a lot of guys. Like if they bring these guys in, they feel like the opportunity for them to have success in the pen is, I assume, better than what they had in Pressly. But you just can't. I hate to see the Astros make it to the playoffs and be like, yeah, let's go. Like we got Abreu, we got Hader, we got okay, we got Abreu and we got Hader. Like that was a formidable 3 guys that covers 4 innings for you in the playoffs for a long time.
I think, Pressly picked it up as the season went on, but even Espada mentioned, like, it was tough for him to lose that role. And technically he didn't do anything to lose that role. They just ended up buying a nice shiny gem off the free agent market. All right, 2 more parts here real quick. I want to get to the Cubs bullpen because I feel much better now about the Cubs bullpen. They have some good arms there. Porter Hodge is a beast. And he looked good down the stretch. I don't want him closing. Nate Pearson's always had talent and been one of the top prospect arms for a while, but couldn't stay on the field. And then, had difficulty with his command in the bigs, but he's got good stuff. There's some other names that we've known there for a while. Merriweather, Caleb Thielbar's been hanging around the league for a while and bounced back down the stretch last year and was picked up by the Cubs. Keegan Thompson's been in that system for a while. So I just feel much better now with Pressly at the top of this list, AJ, and feel like what was a weakness for the Cubs could at least be more mid-level, right? A good enough bullpen for them to compete.
Again, yeah, it is because of the division they're in. For me, that's why Pressly's a nice end at the end. Pearson's been a guy that the Blue Jays hyped up forever and ever. Thielbar had a down year last year for the Twins. I don't know. I think I would love to see another established guy come in there for the Cubs. And Pressly's a nice touch, but I'd love to see one more veteran guy come in and solidify the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning for them. Because bullpens are I keep saying this, but they're one of the most volatile units in baseball. 1 year you could have the greatest bullpen of all time, and the next year for the same guys with the same stuff and the same roles, and they don't do it as well, and you just can't ever figure it out.
Tyson Miller's got some nice numbers, but it's not a lot of punch outs. But what do the Cubs do well? They field the ball. So, you know what? If you're going to build that bullpen, maybe it doesn't look like the just absolute punch out city. But to me, there's too much, we're really leaning on this guy, have a bounce back. Nate Pearson to like his career has been exactly what AJ said, like pumped up from the Blue Jays. Maybe he has success with his, flatter fastball in the bullpen that guys were seeing when he was starting. Julian Merriweather's coming off an injury. He had 1 year where he was dominant. He could be your 8th inning. There's just a lot of could-be's, should-be's. How is Craig Counsell going to do it? No idea. But he was a master at it in Milwaukee, and he's got to be able to have somebody at the end, which he didn't have the last few years. Whatever his name is, Alazale. Thank you. He was down there, and they ran him to death for a while, and it was just like you can't keep doing that. And now they have a solid veteran piece. You just need to keep getting more pieces in there. Like AJ said, I'd like to see maybe one more. We just said Phil Maton. He knows what he's doing down there.
Yeah. Alzolay, by the way, signed a minor league deal with the Mets 2-year contract, and he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He was money, though, a couple of years ago for them and then kind of fell apart. All right, last layer here. Do we think that the Houston Astros are going to now reunite with Alex Bregman. We talked a lot about this over the weekend. Ken Rosenthal kind of hinted that he's feeling it. I listened to him again talk about it on Fair Territory, but how the positioning will get a little weird, and Ken kind of made a case for Bregman to join them and potentially look at playing him at second base instead of at third, keeping Paredes at third base. We'll see. One other layer before you comment here, AJ. Alex Spear from WEEI, who covers the Red Sox, said that the Sox are still talking to Bregman's camp, but they only want a short-term agreement, aka no longer than 4 years. I'm like, if Chandler Rome, who has told us that the 6-year $156 million is still out there, is correct, why the hell would he take a 4-year deal from Boston unless they're planning on giving him 4 years, 200? So I think chances are lining up that he's either going to Houston or Detroit. But if Detroit hasn't gotten him since, then I think Houston's in play, and he might go back there for, maybe it's 160 something, so that they could say all this time wasting from the 156 was worth it. And there's a couple deferrals that basically make it the same price as what they offered 2 months ago.
Yeah, listen, I love that for them to do that. I think it would be great. I think Alex Bregman is a guy that came up with the Astros, was drafted by the Astros, has been with the Astros his entire career, has been through the good times and the bad times. Whatever those bad times are, whatever the people want to say, whatever they did in 17 in those years, they did it, okay? But he's been through it all. He's won. He's been a proven veteran winner for him, and I think he should stay an Astro for his entire career. Now, that's the softy in me. But at the same time, if the Detroit Tigers and someone he knows well, AJ Hinch, come to him and say, hey, we're going to blow you out of the water, he's going to leave. So do I think the door's open? I think it's more open than it was a couple days ago once Presley got traded. Do I think he's going to end up back there? We all know how Scott Boras works. So we'll see. I think Bregman ultimately probably wants to go back there, but he also wants to get fair market value. That's where it's going to be interesting.
I think they get him. I think they get him. I don't think it is a perfect fit with the defensive alignment, but I'm afraid unless somebody like the Jays were to jump in, we don't know about them. We haven't heard about them. I just don't feel like we just heard about Boston. I don't feel like the Tigers really want to go that long either. Old Javi Baez hangover. I think it's going to end up being the Astros. It could be that 6 years. It also could be like a 6-year with a opt-out after the first year. So he can say, you know what? I think I deserve more. I think the market would give me more. We'll see what happens.
Ready for this? Bregman signs with Houston. Astros trade Paredes to a team that needs a third baseman because there's still a few of them. Maybe even back to Detroit or Boston. They get an outfielder because they need an outfielder. So book it, okay? That's the next week.
No, but not if they don't need an outfielder if Jose Altuve slides out to the outfield. Like they're
I know, but I want Altuve at second. I want Bregman at third.
You want Paredes' bat in that lineup. I want Paredes' bat 81 times in Minute Maid, or not, it's called Minute Maid, whatever it's called now. Daikin Park.
Daikin.
Yeah. Daikin Park. Yeah. But anyway, I could see it happening because also they would want to clear some money, and Paredes getting paid a decent rate this year. I don't remember what the exact money is. All right. We'll swing back and we'll show you a bunch of the conversations that we had with stars and baseball royalty this past weekend. All right, FT fam, they're still with us because we love them. Get your games while they're hot, but they're actually cold. I'm cracking one now. Vanilla today. Kratz going with chocolate. Now you can see Kratz has that 30-gram action right there. But tell us how it tastes. You can take a sip while you're going. I got the dairy-free version.
I just ate. I'm taking an extra sip. You got the dairy-free? Also, it's on sale right now, too.
That is true.
Get your code. 30% off.
That is true. I'm not there next to AJ to actually hand him one or, feed him or gain, but I know you have plenty there, too. 30 grams of protein in that shake. Tastes good. And also, yes, as Kratz mentioned, 30% off your order if you use the code VAL30, which we'll get to in just a sec. But AJ, I know you were probably pitched many different drinks as you were coming across the bigs. Hey, this is the best protein drink out there. And then you take a sip and you're like, this is crap.
Yeah.
So
Orgain tastes well. I just don't have one on me. But I do drink it after workout. So I absolutely invest back in that product, and it tastes great. And it doesn't fill me up. It gives me the protein I need after working out, but it doesn't fill me up to where I feel blah after working out. So it's a nice mix of good taste, good protein, and good ingredients, and then it makes me not feel awful afterwards, which is huge for me.
Exactly. So get your hands on one of the big protein boosts that Kratz is holding right now, or some organic nutrition plant-based protein shakes, which is where I'm rolling. All right. Give Orgain 30-gram protein shakes to try at Orgain.com/foul30 for 30% off your order. Got to use the code FOUL30. FT fam, we'll be right back to show some combos that we had with Tarek Skubal, AJ Hinch, Chris Sale, and many more.
Our owner one time wore Brewers stuff on the plane, and I was like, "Were you trying to let everybody know you're the owner of the Brewers?"
You find Antanasio?
Yeah, he knows it. I'm the check master. I happen to be. We've done it for 9 years, and you just can give anybody a check that steps out of line or tries to draw attention to themselves or whatever, and it's half-hearted. Like there's some made-up ones probably.
He gave it to Council once for something I wrote about Council.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even his last year, he used to talk about, like, I'm trying to get him to do a bobblehead of a casket, and I pop up in the casket, And get up.
That's good. Great marketing.
He's just so self-deprecating, but just such a beautiful man. I think the organization has an opportunity to do something extremely special for a guy that is. There's no one more important to what this guy has meant and what he represented. He had chances to move on. He had chances to do all sorts of things, and just stayed with the Brewers through and through.
He's not the only person I've ever tried to emulate or try, and so I've definitely gone through iterations of, Scherzer, Lincecum, like all these like greats where I'm like, oh, these guys are good. I might as well try it out. And nothing stuck until this thing.
Lincecum to Sale is like as far away as you can get. Lincecum was like straight over the top downhill. Sale's like stepping over behind you, throwing it over here.
Yeah, that was more when I was growing up, and I was like, since pro ball, I've kind of tried to be my own person, but there's greats for the reason. I work out with him. I see him every day, so.
But did you text him?
Because
it's a big thing in New York, like texting.
Yeah.
So you got to change his number.
Yeah.
So you've talked to Pete about it.
You're with him every day in Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We work out. I just want whatever's best for Pete, and so at the end of the day.
Have you talked to Soto?
I've not yet, but hopefully. Yeah.
Will he sign your 1,000th baseball, your 1,000th strikeout, since you punched his ticket on it?
I hope so. That'd be cool.
Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, guys. Love what you guys do. So.
I think the toughest part was just navigating each day. You go through a season as a player. When you get to the field, you know what you need to do in order to go be ready for the game. And then you go home at night, you go through your day, you do like the 2 or 3 checklists. Okay, I need to work on this hitting. This is my lift tomorrow. I know what I'm going to do. And then you just go to bed. As a manager, you got 70 people that you go through the checklist right before you go to bed. And throughout the day, every single time somebody comes into the office, those are the most important 5 minutes of the day. So it's just the toughest part is being on and being there and navigating each day. And then you get to just go watch baseball, and it's the best. We don't want to put Travis into a position that is going to make him feel uncomfortable. We're going to see a lot of him at spring training. He's going to come over as a backup. He's going to come over in depth camps or those kind of things. But, for all of our minor league guys, we want to see as many of them as possible. And our front office does a great job. Our minor league coordinators, Johnny McDonald, does a great job of bringing us players that we get to see and watch play and work. And I'm excited to see a number of our minor league players.
So you're saying he's not going to make the team?
It's too early, AJ.
What happens if he goes out and hits like 5 bombs?
There's going to be some good discussions.
He's gonna talk. I mean, you need homers. Everybody loves homers.
They're great.
So get Big Christmas in the lineup a little bit more.
We haven't even started yet.
I think he did the lineup just fine last year.
Hey, thank you, Ken.
Did it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken.
Don't
Thank
do
you,
that.
Ken.
Don't do that, Ken.
Along the way, right, along this journey, there's a lot of ups and downs, and the people that are there the entire time, you know, everyone's there for the parties, right? Everyone likes the good times. Everyone's there for the celebrations. But, you know, when you're down and out, a lot of those people aren't there. And, you know, for me, this was almost like a recognition of everybody that got me here, because I'm nothing without them. I really am not. I'm not sitting here. I don't achieve what I'm not who I am. I'm not where I'm at. I truly believe none of this happens without the people that I have, and just my family, my friends, my teammates, doctors, trainers. I mean, coach. I mean, the list goes on and on. So this was I appreciate this a lot, because I feel like this was just a really big group effort. Times where I thought I was done, you know, and shoot, I before, like I said, I've said it before I got traded, I was planning on being done. This was going to be the last year. It's going to get everything I got. I bought a new truck. We're going to get an RV, and we're going to go travel. So I still got the truck. We don't have the RV, but those plans got pushed back a little bit, thankfully.
I think there's every trade deadline for the last 2 or 3. I've kind of been my name's kind of been floated around, and the first one probably impacted me a little bit different than the time since then. You just learn kind of how to deal with it. But when you're on the TV, I just kind of either leave the room if it's on the TV, or I turn it off, or change the channel. I don't really want to, nor do I want my teammates to kind of be thinking about that stuff. I think that's kind of where there's a little bit more of an impact, is you're losing guys that anytime you trade away somebody, it sucks. It always is going to suck as a teammate. But I just kind of turn the TV off, and at the end of the day, all I can control is me doing my job, and that's really it.
I have 2 for you, and it goes off what you just said. Do you guys win the DS if Jack Flaherty doesn't get traded?
I saw this clip.
No, because we asked Jack.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I love Jack. He's a hell of a talent. That's such I would say, I mean, if there's a guy I want on the mound, that's not me on our team. I want him on the mound. Mm-hmm. I mean, last season was special. K per 9 was, I think, career high. Walks per 9, career low. That's kind of the formula, right? In the postseason, is you want guys that can miss bats and get you out of trouble. And you saw his starts. I think he only had one bad one. All the other ones were pretty dominant, in terms of who he is. And he was going through some stuff too, physically with his body, and just him being able to take the ball every 5th day. You see the toughness that kind of guy has. And I think he, has the respect of the guys in our clubhouse. And, I'd love to have him back for
he's
sure.
a free agent, by the way. Tell Scott Harris who's here. Inch is here. Tell him, hey,
I'd love to have him back.
Flaherty's a free agent.
Yeah, that business side of the game, I just don't quite understand yet, why he's not with the team. But
have you texted Jack about coming back?
No, not like I saw a little rumor. I go, hey, what's up? And had that little conversation. But I'd love to have him back.
So one of our first base coach, Anthony Iapoce, who's been around the league in a couple different places, is like, he's famous on our team for saying, hey, the moment's over. Like, as soon as a guy hits a homer, he's not going to give you a high five at first base. He's not going to love on you too much. He's like, the moment's over. So maybe tonight the moment's over for 24 and get to 25. I'll reminisce one more time with our team, because we have to acknowledge that people are going to look at us a little differently, because we're coming into the season, coming off the playoffs and the run and all that stuff. And so the standards, are kind of new and it's set. And I think, we have an opportunity. I've said it forward, like, hey, I want to win the division, and to do that, we got to go over through Stephen Vogt's team. We got to go through the Royals. We got to go through Minnesota and do our part. So hopefully we just don't wait till the last 6 weeks to do it and get off to a better start.
What do we not know about Tarik Skubal?
Probably hates losing more than he likes winning. Like, he is a very, very high bar for himself. His standards are really high. Like all these dudes, these aces, these front of the rotation dudes, like they're amazing, right? With what they do and how they go about it, the prep is there. I think the accountability part is what fans and people around the game don't know. He'll have a bad game, I'll pull him out. And Tarek has had so many good games. I've gotten to witness it from the top row, and he hates coming out of games. And so there's always that interaction, like, hey, I'm coming out of the game. You know, if I can do it on the mound, it's public, and he won't really embarrass me or won't try to be too big a deal. One day I brought him into the dugout, and I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to go with somebody different. You're done. And he's like, why? And I'm like, why? And he's like, tell me I sucked. Tell me I sucked. He just wanted to know. Tell me I sucked.
Yep.
And that became like kind of a funny story between him and I to say all he wants is accountability.
And yet he said when you left him in that game against the Guardians, when he gave up the 5 runs, that was a big deal to him, that you didn't take him out.
I'll trust him, until he can't pitch. I mean, he is the guy you want on the mound in the biggest moment of the season, and I'll put him on the mound every single chance I get.
Mm-hmm. That was awesome. Great job behind the scenes, obviously. Claudia and company putting that together. I love the last clip there. Not for the words. The words were great, obviously, but also for AJ behind Hinch. So Pierzynski behind Hinch with Skenes. And Hinch was like, I'm proud that I made it through this interview and I didn't let Pierzynski kick me out of the chair too quickly for Skenes to jump in.
The best interview we did the whole night was the one I wasn't in. So good job, guys. I'm proud of y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, we had talked to Hinch before, but when the rookie of the year and Paul Skenes needs time, it's time for Hinch to go. So he understood that. And we had a nice chat after. And what's funny is I was actually talking to Hinch before going to get Skenes. So apparently one of y'all grabbed him. Well, he sent me to go talk to Skenes. One of y'all grabbed him to come talk to y'all. So it worked out great for me.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. Well executed by the guest wrangling that we did. And then Skenes was great. I'll save our comments about the conversation because we're going to run it later on during Foul Territory. Okay. But Kratz, obviously you had a freaking blast too. So quick thought, and then we'll get back to some biz and the Pete Alonso versus the Mets battle that we've got from the weekend. But what stood out?
I mean, just how everybody was real. They weren't putting on that face of like, well, we just tried our best and the team did the best they could. It was real. Like everybody was talking about family and like how tough it was to get through certain things. And these are the best. These are the best at their position.
And Kratz, you love that stuff. You love the emotional stuff, tugging at the heartstrings and all that. So anyway, more later. We'll have the Skenes conversation. If you're watching on TV, you'll also hear from Barry Bonds in tomorrow's show. Coming back with the Cohen versus Boris quotes from the weekend. YouTube fam, we're hanging out with you in the chat today as usual. Brandon threw this out there and I was like, you know what? I might as well bring it up now. He goes, Michael King on the block too for the Padres. I don't know if you guys caught this yet, but we'll ask Ken when he's on in the next day or two. In Ken's notes column this morning in The Athletic, he said that starting pitching trades could be holding up the market a bit for a number of mid-tier starters that are still available on the market. There's like a pretty good list of names still available. So he mentioned the trade candidates as Castillo, Dylan Cease, and Michael King.
Why Michael King? Michael King doesn't make sense. Cease, sure. Castillo, sure. But why Michael King? Is there something we're missing here with old Michael?
I think this is his free agent year or no? And he's going to go to ARB and it's going to be $7 or $8 million. But to me, this is kind of starting to tell the picture of what's going on with the Padres. Okay. There was a report that they're not going to significantly cut payroll and be outside of the top 10, but their projected payroll right now is $30 million over the 11th place team on payroll in the Diamondbacks. So obviously they can still do some pretty significant cutting and they would be in the top 10 in payroll. So to me, it's meaning that they're not going to add much. And if anything, they might subtract one of those names from the starting rotation. That's a problem.
You think they've looked into like getting rid of somebody else's contract, like one of those big contracts, and there's just no traction out there? Because you can't keep all these guys on the roster that are making that huge amount of money and keep cutting, to me, what I think are bargains. They're cutting, not that they're cutting them, sorry. If they get rid of Cease, he's a bargain for, I think he's 12 or 13 million for this year. If they get rid of Michael King, if they trade him, when I say get rid of him, 8 something. The dude was 7th in Cy Young voting. Like, he had legitimate top 10 Cy Young votes here, and you would be getting rid of him like that. I feel like that's weird, unless hopefully they would be throwing one of those higher contract guys in, and then maybe it makes a little more sense. But man, it's just weird to me.
Well, what high contract guy can they trade? They ain't trading Manny Machado.
Mm-mm.
You can't trade Manny Machado.
I mean,
you're not.
Bogart's not tradable.
Bogart's not tradable. Machado's not going to happen. I mean, Musgrove's on the IL with the elbow injury. They're not going to trade Darvish, right? I mean, Cease and King are the two, but then they're not trading Jackson Merrill. They lost Profar. Ha-Seong Kim's a free agent. They don't have much to trade.
It's true.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
They had a Amazing Day this past week, and that's the fan fest for the Mets. Apparently, they hadn't done it in years. I think maybe 5 years, and it sounded like it was a great event, so they should do it. All teams should do their fan fests as often as possible, please. But Steve Cohen did something that most owners would never do. He addressed a current free agency situation as Mets fans were chanting, "We want Pete, we want Pete." Steve Cohen was like, hold up. And we have what he said. Here it is.
All right. We've made a significant offer to Pete. What Davis says correct. He's entitled to go out and explore his market. And that's what he's doing. Personally, this has been an exhausting conversation and negotiation. I mean, Soto was tough. This is worse. Okay? And a lot of it is, we've made a significant, I don't like the structures that are being presented back to us. I think it's highly asymmetric against us. And I feel strongly about it. And so, I will never say no. There's always the possibility. But the reality is, we're moving forward, and we continue to bring in players. As we continue to bring in players, the reality is, it becomes harder to fit Pete into what is a very expensive, group of players that we already have, and.
Ooh-wee. Very interesting. Very interesting.
You know what he just said? We don't really want Pete that bad. Because if he wanted Pete that bad, he'd go out and do what he did with Soto and go get him. I don't know. It was interesting. Why is it exhausting, Steve? Cohen, Steve Cohen. Why is it exhausting to you? Because Boris is trying to negotiate with you hard. I mean, he negotiated hard with Soto, but you wanted Soto, so you said okay. Now with Pete, you're like, Pete, we like you and the fans love you. You've done a lot of good things here, but he already said it. He doesn't really fit with the roster we have now. This sounded like David Stearns for the first time in Steve Cohen's ear saying, we don't need to spend all the money in the world. If he wants to come here on a lesser deal, we'll take him back. But if he doesn't get what he wants, we're also okay with our roster letting him walk away.
I just think it's exactly what you said. He doesn't want to – they don't really want Pete that bad. Pete wants to be there. Maybe Pete doesn't have all of the looks that he's saying they have, or maybe he's like, I don't really want to go to Toronto or another mystery team that's asking him or offering him something. But to me, is Cohen going to get in trouble for this? Because I know a GM can't talk about free agents. Are owners allowed to do this? Is he going to get in trouble because you can't? No, he won't? Okay.
No. I'll tell you. No, there's an explanation here. Will he get in trouble? No. Is he allowed to talk like this? It's very questionable. It was in Ken's notes column, and he spoke about it today on Fair Territory. He talked about how it's called Attachment 49, right? And you're violating that attachment in the CBA agreement with the league and the players In response to past acts of collusion by the clubs, it's designed to prevent club officials from attempting to influence the market through public comments. In theory, Ken said this also applies to agents, but obviously, yeah, there's been, discussions in the past that have led to, I think, grievances filed. It doesn't usually actually happen. I personally think that part will be a nothing burger, Kratz. I mean, you do have to be super careful. Owners, execs will almost never go this far, but I don't think he laid out too many details. He just said that they were pissed off about what was going on in the negotiations right now. He didn't say like, here's where the money's at and here's what we want to offer him, right? Because if you start doing that, now you're kind of giving away his market. But I don't know. Do you feel like on the player side, like Pete should be bothered about something like this because the owner came out and said that the talks were bad? Or AJ, what about you? I mean, like, let's say you hit free agency and you guys aren't coming to an agreement, and then the owner of the team's like, yeah, this has been a pain in the ass.
I'd be pissed if I was Pete. I'd be pissed. I'm like, why do you got to say that publicly? Call me, Mr. Cohen. Call me and tell me that, maybe we can get some done. Now, Scott Boras would never go for this, but maybe we could get some done between the two of us. Maybe we, and listen, Scott Boras has been through a lot. He's had a great offseason. He's got a lot of his guys signed, but he's got a couple big ones still sitting out there. One is Bregman, one is Pete Alonso. Where's he going to get those guys? We saw Scott on Saturday night. He was all smiles. I mean, his guy Skubal won Cy Young. His other guy, Manaea, won Nice Guy Award. He's made a ton of money this offseason. But you know what? He's got two big guys sitting out there. So if I was Scott Boras and I was Pete Alonso, I don't want him negotiating, because this is negotiating through the newspaper. Negotiate with me. You don't need to go out there. Talk to me. Call me. Don't go do it publicly, because you know what this does? The fans are all, we want Pete, we want Pete. Steve Cohen's trying to get ahead of them and say, well, this is why Pete's a bad guy and Pete's not really doing this. He's bad negotiating. Like, whatever. No, just do this with me. You don't need to say, you know what he should have said? You know what? We want Pete back also. Hopefully we can get a deal done. Boom. It kills it. It's over with. But instead, he says what he says, and you get Boras riled up, you get Pete riled up, and you get the fans riled up.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I think this actually helps on some closure for Pete to be like, okay, I see where we're going here. All right, let's get to Jim Bowden posting about the Scott Boras comments and just more about the situation. He said it was interesting to hear Cohen concerned about the structure. He said opt-outs have been commonplace, like Bellinger, Snell, Rodon, etc. Oftentimes GMs, not players, use buyouts to defer money to another year for accounting purposes, because there was some confusion here. I'm jumping in with some of the local radio, like not understanding how baseball contracts work. But he was referring to how, the Cubs moved $5 million of the Bellinger deal as a buyout of the opt-out year, but really it was $32.5 million. It's just good accounting on teams to be able to pay a little bit more of that towards the end of the year. Contract structure is an easy barrier to overcome for both sides. It's always mostly about money, not structure. Let's show Will Salmon too here with the reply from Boras. So Scott Boras publicly came out right after that and said that the free agent contract structure request is identical to the standards and practices of other clubs who have signed similarly situated qualifying offer all-star level players. Nothing different, just established fairness standards. Guys, for me, I just think the Mets have drawn their line. They don't want him that badly. And if he's got a better offer, go run. I saw this coming for a year, It's not the type of long-term contract that the current general manager is interested in. And if you go a little further back, when the Mets were looking for a GM, right? This was before the David Stearns run. There were a lot of people turning down having a conversation. So I think part of that is you got to tell a GM like, hey, you're going to get some power here to be able to make decisions. And I want you to challenge me and say, no, I don't want you to fall in love with a player based on the marketing. I'll also make it clear, I freaking love Pete. He's a legend here, at a young age, really, in New York. He had an awesome postseason. He had the biggest moment of the year for the Mets. But David Stearns is going to act in his way, pragmatically, based on what his past processes was. That's just what's happening here. So if there's a better offer, go grab it and beat the crap out of your old team and show them what they were missing. And also, if there's a better offer with opt-outs, go hit 50 homers and go back to the market.
Yeah. Listen, what you said is all right. And this is not a David Stearns type player. And Pete is just stuck in a bad spot right now. It just sucks for Pete because he's a good guy. The fans love him. He's had a great career as a Met. He wants clearly to go back to the Mets, but sometimes it takes two, as we've said a million times in free agency. It just sucks for the Mets that they just really don't want him that badly. Because again, if they want him that badly, this would be done. Steve Cohen has shown the propensity when he wants a guy, he goes and gets him. He goes out. Remember, they wanted Verlander. They wanted Scherzer. Boom, boom, boom. They wanted Lindor. They went and traded for him, right? They wanted Soto. They went and got him. They wanted Manaea back. It's done, right? So don't give me about contract hullabaloo and this and that. It's just all hearsay so that it makes, when Pete signs somewhere else, Steve Cohen can say, I tried the best I could and we moved on.
Yep, there you go. Which you could do after he signs. That's why. But the thing is, the fan fest pops up and you're an owner and you're used to saying what you want. So I love the transparency, so I'm not going to hate on that part, but it just seems like it's a divorce. It's starting to get a little bit messy, but we'll see if they come swooping through. They're not going to change their offer. I'm telling you that. So if he does go back to them, it's because he didn't get something else that he liked at that level. All right, let's step aside. We're going to run through some storylines as we go team by team. We're going to hit the Athletics coming up. I like to take the YouTube crowd behind the camera. So there's a new camera that I set up here, and just randomly mid-show, it decides now it's going to not be a stationary camera and it's going to follow me. Didn't do that for the beginning of the show. I have not touched a single button, but just wanted to point that out there. Yeah.
Pro.
It's making me
but
sick.
Not
it's
really.
Like
I know.
It's like watching the Blair Witch Project. So can we figure out how to not have that happen?
I will work on that, but usually something doesn't just change automatically unless AI is trying to take over the world. I'm dealing with a personal battle right now, me against the machine. So I will get this resolved.
How about we stop moving?
I can't stop moving, dude. None of us. I mean, Kratz is probably more stationary than everyone else, but AJ, you and me move quite a bit. Almost everybody on our show is, pretty ADD. Anyway, real quick, we can show this tweet from Twins Fest, I think it's called. Carlos Correa was addressing the offseason. He said, we're in a spot right now where we cannot invest, and it is what it is. You got to live with that, and you got to go out and play with the players that you have. I mean, it was a pretty cookie cutter line. I think the one part that you get out of it is, he's pretty aware of what's going on behind the scenes. The team is in a freeze right now. They're in a pattern where they can't do anything. And Kratz, if I had to guess, Correa probably feels crappy because when he signed, they were like, you're going to be one piece. We're going to keep adding to this. They were supposed to be able to spend 30 plus mil, even from that point forward, on their payroll. And they actually had to go backwards. So by a few years later, you would have thought maybe this team would have been in the 175 million range for payroll. And instead they're, I think, a strict 125, something like that. And they're going to get sold hopefully by opening day. But that's just the way the sale process works. I was hating on it in the past. I'm not hating on it now because it's just a fact. The new ownership group wants to be able to spend the money their way. And also this is how the franchise gets value, a valuation number.
I feel like this organization they communicate really well. According to the players that I know that have played there recently with this front office, the way that Correa said it, it felt like it was something that was told to him, because originally he was told, hey, I'll sign this $200+ million contract, but then you're going to continue to invest. And they've invested like $9.2 million in new players since then. So I feel like somebody came to him and told him, look, we cannot. And he said this and he's moving on.
Here we go. Melissa Lockard from The Athletic covers the A's, among other things. Great to have you on the show as we're going to run through some storylines, Melissa, which we'll get to in just a moment. I just want to get your thoughts real quick overall. Are you surprised we're having you on and actually talking about a few decent moves for the Athletics? Like, I'm trying to look at it a little bit half full. Obviously, you and I, we saw each other last year around this time at Fans Fest. The Oakland situation aside, this franchise itself hasn't really been competitive for the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there sort of has been an ebb and flow in terms of how the franchise has operated over the last, 25 years or so, where you'll see a concentration of years where they are competitive and then a concentration of years where they're not. And I think from a player development standpoint, they're starting to enter that window of where they would be competitive. So, it makes sense that they'd be adding. Obviously, being back on revenue sharing and having to spend that money has allowed them to actually sign a few players on the open market. But it doesn't shock me that they would be trying to improve and not sell off at this stage, just given sort of what their pattern has been in terms of player development in the past.
Okay, so let's get into the details. And I tried to use a little bit of humor along the way. So let's hit our 2025 storylines for the Athletics. I am by no means a writer with my full-time job here, Melissa, but let me know how I did. So first off, we're going to say goodbye, Oakland. John Fisher can't wait to watch Aaron Judge mash in Sacramento. How are they going to draw in the capital of California? We've got daddy money where the A's are forced to spend some of that money, which we referred to. You got to get at least to about the 105 mil number. Brent Rooker got paid. And is there an underdog story involved? Can this team actually make a postseason run and set up the dream matchup that we're all looking for, the Rays and the A's in the ALCS in a battle of minor league ballparks? So, Melissa, let's start at the top here and get your thoughts on the first storyline, which is the A's moving to Sacramento for now. How do you think this is going to play out for not just the area, but also for the team and for opponents dealing with what is a minor league environment, even though they did obviously make some renovations and they're still doing that to try and polish it up and making it a little bit less, minor league-ish?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's a stadium that cannot be bigger than what is out there. So you got, I think 14,000 is its capacity. And I think they probably will draw around that most nights, right? Like, I think there is an excitement in the area to have a major league team. I think, they're going to have a fairly full ballpark. What that means for the experience for the players when you're still looking at it as a AAA ballpark, I think remains to be seen. And obviously those guys will be able to tell us as it comes. But there is some, local excitement there in Sacramento. There's definitely been some interesting moves. I think taking Stomper, or the elephant anyway, off of the uniforms and replacing it with the Sacramento patch, but not actually calling them the Sacramento Athletics is an interesting move. Sort of having your cake and eating it too in some ways. And I think, that they are out in the community a little bit as opposed to, hiding from the community like they had the last couple of years in Oakland is certainly a change. So I'm sure it'll be a honeymoon period there. What happens in year 2 or 3, I think will be a lot more interesting than what happens the first year.
How are these trades and free agents that they have signed pay off? Because, if we're talking about a playoff team, these are the guys that have to be at the center of it. And John Fisher all of a sudden came up with some money that he just mysteriously didn't have in a much larger market.
Well, he came up with the other owner's money, I think is the main thing. It got back on revenue sharing. So, I think they are a better team than they were at this time last year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They've got a little bit more veteran depth in the starting rotation. I still think they need more. I'm surprised they haven't been the team that's bought Jordan Montgomery's contract yet with that remaining amount of money. But they certainly have more stability there. They have some younger guys who could, kind of help at the back end of that rotation. Ken Waldichuk coming back from Tommy John surgery. And, that offense was starting to gel a little bit this year, and they're moving into a ballpark that will help their offense even more. So, you're looking at the main guys still being Brent Rooker, still being Lawrence Butler, the development of Tyler Soderstrom and Zach Geloff. Shea Langolier is probably going to get 35, 40 homers with that ballpark to play in. So that's kind of where their core is, but adding more stability to the rotation certainly will help.
All right. How nice was it to see Brent Rooker get paid? I know he's been on here a bunch of times with us. I'm happy for him. This guy, if you don't know his story, was a high draft pick, SEC Triple Crown out of Mississippi State, goes kind of bounces around team to team, never really gets a chance, gets to go to the Athletics, We call them the ATHs on here, by the way, because they, they're not Sacramento, they're not Oakland, who knows where they're going to play. So he gets to the ATHs. He has a couple nice years. He has an unbelievable year last year, and he gets paid. So how happy are we that Brent Rooker finally got paid, and he's now kind of the face of the franchise?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that was the no-brainer move of the offseason if you were the A's front office. I mean, here's a guy who is not only their best player, but also a huge influence in that clubhouse. He is the veteran leadership there. I don't think there's any reason to think that he won't continue to be that player for the next couple of years. And, if you're Brent Rooker, it made all the sense in the world to take that money too, because he is older. He was older when he signed out of college. It took him a while to get established. Now he's guaranteed for life with that money, but he also knows that the A's do have a history of, if they aren't going to pay the player anymore, they have done a good job of trading players to places where their careers take off. So I don't think there's a downside for either side really in that deal. And I am really happy for a guy that worked as hard as he did to turn himself into the player that he is to get that money.
Is there a chance that we see Rays and the ATHs in the playoffs? Maybe more so the ATHs we're talking about now. And we even asked Rooker this the other day when he was on. Will they allow them to play in Sacramento if they make the playoffs?
I believe they've said no. I believe that the contingency plan has been for both of those teams to have, somewhere else to play in the playoffs. I don't know if there's been like an official announcement, but I think that's what we've heard. The interesting thing would be if you did have a playoff series in one of those minor league parks for that team, could they outdraw the one wild card game they played at the Oakland Coliseum in 2019? And I'm not sure they could, even if you had a 5-game series. So, I think that's an interesting thing. But, you look at the AL West right now, Houston's still obviously a little bit in flux, but they're not better than they were necessarily. The Angels are maybe a little bit better, but they have a lot of ways to go. The Mariners have done nothing. So, you're looking at a division that is not going to be the best in baseball by a long shot. So it wouldn't be out of this realm of possibility that they could make a run.
Okay. What you just said, I just can't get my head wrapped around it. So if the ATHs make the postseason, they're not going to play where they played their whole season. Yeah. Why the F not? I don't understand. They battled and they went through this whole thing. Same with the Rays. So the Rays have all their stuff packed away in Steinbrenner Field. The ATHs have it all packed away, whatever the ballpark's called in Sacramento now. I don't even know. River Cat Park or whatever it's called, right? But they have all their stuff packed away, and they have all these things and the promotions. The fans have been behind them. And then Major League Baseball is going to say, oh, by the way, great job, guys. You're playing your playoff games in San Francisco at the Giants Park? Like, that is just ludicrous to me that we would even be having this conversation.
I mean, it's ludicrous that we have two teams playing in minor league ballparks when you have, at the very least, one empty major league ready ballpark now. And, whatever you think of the Oakland Coliseum, it's still a major league ballpark and it's just sitting there. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense, especially about the A's situation. Obviously, there was, a natural disaster that impacted the Rays situation. But, even there's no plan for what happens next for the Rays and their stadium situation. I think, the A's is far from settled as to what happens next after this next year, given what's going on in Nevada with their budget situation. And the fact that, frankly, construction costs in California and in Las Vegas are probably going to go way up because construction in Los Angeles is going to be so intense over the next few years. So I don't know what the end game is for either of these franchises, to be honest. But, maybe they build the floating ballpark off the coast of somewhere, and that's where both of them will play the postseason series, something.
They could play Squid Game. They could play the Squid Games on some random island and just
invite
certain. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do? But my thing is, I got to ask you this: since you brought up Vegas, and you know more about this than probably any of us on this show do. What are the chances that the A's actually end up in Las Vegas? Because until I see a shovel, now not the golden shovel that John Fisher throws over his shoulder and is like, here we go. I'm talking about like beams going in and actual stadium walls being built. What are the chances that the ATHs actually end up in Las Vegas?
I still think it's less than 50%. I don't feel like we've seen a real rendering. Like there's been sort of little kind of haphazard renderings that we've seen. Maybe there are renderings that exist for, the companies that would actually build this thing that are a lot more detailed. But you compare the renderings to other park projects that you've seen that actually did get done, and even ones that don't, like some of the ones in Chicago that frankly have been a lot more impressive than what we've seen. And those are like, pie in the sky sort of things. And yeah, they blew up the casino, but there's no building that's taking place there. There's a huge budget deficit that's starting in Nevada now, and I don't know how they justify giving away money when they have to make ends meet for the state there. And the fact that they're kind of making these inroads in Sacramento tells me they're not so sure either. They're kind of keeping all the eggs in the basket that they can, because I don't think they know what's going to happen next either. So I don't think they've positioned themselves particularly well to have moved out of a market that they could have stayed in stasis until they figured out where they were going to go to find out what's next.
There was no better slogan than "Rooted in Oakland" when we knew they were desperately trying to leave several years ago. That was a Dave Kaval masterpiece, who is now gone from the team. So good job by him to kind of keep his legacy really, really strong. Can't wait to have him on the show. But Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate the time. Everyone give Melissa a follow if you don't already. She does a great job, obviously, covering what goes on here, especially on the news side too, with the Athletics. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, we'll be right back, FT fam. We are going to show our Paul Skenes conversation from Saturday night. While we're on the A's, since they actually did something or did multiple things this offseason, which I'm a huge fan of, by the way, I want to be clear about that. It's nice to have the A's playing, a little more competitively in the offseason, even if that's forced. AJ, can you now name and Kratz, the 4 teams left that have not signed a major league free agent this offseason?
Marlins are one, obviously. We got the Marlins.
Of course. 3 more. At least one other should be easy.
Atlanta.
No. Brewers signed somebody, even if it was more low end. No, Atlanta signed Profar. One I just talked about. Very, very recently on the show.
Mariners.
No. Mariners signed Solano. Ray signed somebody. The team I just talked about, the Twins.
Padres
are a third.
Twins.
There's one more, and it's just
Rockies. No, the Rockies signed Stallings.
And Farmer and some others. There's one team left that has also claimed to be frozen
Cardinals
based on a situation.
Cardinals.
The St. Louis Cardinals. There you go. Good job. I mean, it's not easy, but yeah, that's the last 4. And Kratz, I can't answer who has signed each one. I didn't do the homework like that, but the Brewers have signed somebody, even if it was.
By the way,
what?
Can we discuss this? Every writer we have on from the Oakland area is like, yeah, they're not going to be in Vegas. I mean, everyone we ask, it is not. There hasn't been one Oakland Bay Area person that's been like, oh, yeah, they're going to be in Vegas in 3 years, 4 years. There hasn't been one of them. Every person we've asked has been like, it's under 50% that the A's are in Vegas in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. It is amazing. So what the hell is John Fisher doing? I don't get it. What Melissa said at the end was great. They left a Major League ballpark to go to a place you can't play playoff games. Now, the Rays is different because of the hurricane, but the A's left the place, and if I just can't get my mind around, if they make the playoffs, they can't play in the stadium that they played in the whole year. They're going to have to go to Montreal. They're going to have to go to where? Like, what do we do here? It's crazy.
It is. It's a tough look too, Kratz, when fans are there all year, and then you're like, root for us to win so that we can exit this ballpark for postseason ball.
It's going to be a brutal look too. Not many people. No, it doesn't. Playoff people don't travel. Home team doesn't travel well. It's not. I don't know. It's going to be a bad look.
It is a very difficult look, but we'll see what happens. Paul Skenes joining us right now, Rookie of the Year in the National League.
Dude,
Paul,
a big son of a bitch, by the way.
He got taller. He got taller since he got the award.
Yeah.
Dang. All right.
What was your favorite part of the night?
Oh man, sitting next to Tracy Morgan.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was here the whole time.
Yeah, he was alternating between me and Tarek, and I think we were kind of giving each other looks a little bit, like, all right, who wants to take the next shift?
What was the funniest?
Talking to him.
What was the funniest thing that he said?
Yeah, no, can't.
No.
I saw him practicing his speech at one point.
No, so he was studying it when he wasn't talking to us too. He was studying it, which makes it a little bit funnier, I think, when he lost his spot. But hey, that meant that he got to kind of give us some of his raw thoughts a little bit. But yeah, it was cool.
Dude, he smells good. I gotta know.
Yeah.
Like, what are you wearing? Because it smells good.
Just some Bath and Body Works cologne.
Wow.
there you
I didn't
go.
know Bath and Body Works was on.
They're thriving.
They
now.
are
Bath
thriving.
and Body
They're
Works is a
thriving
good
now.
spot.
Wow.
I
know I
big
saw
Oh, by the
comeback.
way, I don't know if we can show this, but
What?
I mean,
Oh, nice.
Sorry
Okay.
about
The
that.
whole time?
Yeah.
sorry about
Paul.
that.
Why does it say Roy? I don't get it. I don't get what
It's a little different than MVP.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a little different.
That's
Yeah, give
right.
it time.
That's right.
Oh.
So when you were up there, and obviously, you talked about how you want to make it easy for writers, right? Can you explain like kind of the backstory of what you're thinking there when you're like, all right, I want to make sure that this is a unanimous decision when I'm going into season after season to be a Cy Young, and how you're kind of trained brain-wise because you're new to the league. This was your first year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, you saw what Tarek did with the unanimous Cy Young award. I think that's, probably the coolest honor in terms of getting an award like this is the unanimous Hall of Fame selection too, like having everybody kind of agree that, you're the guy a little bit. So, hopefully, that's the goal. That's, one of the things that's pushed me a little bit this off season. So, just, something to work for and look forward to next year.
Paul, toward the end of the season, there was a great debate. Paul Skenes, Jackson Merrill, even Jackson Churio entered the conversation. How much were you paying attention to that? How much were you conscious of just the question of who was going to be the Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I really saw it and paid attention to it is just because it was kind of on the TVs in the clubhouse, and then we had fans, kind of yelling it at me in the stands. So other than that, I didn't see a whole lot of it. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, we win the Rookie of the Year, and then we go on and have a great career, or we don't. And so the Rookie of the Year is kind of like, it's cool and all, but there's still a lot to be accomplished. So they both had really good seasons. I got to face Churio. I didn't get to face Merrill. Got to meet him. Got to meet both of them. But there's going to be a lot of battles in the future. So I don't, got the award this year, which is great and all, but we're going to get to face each other a lot, over the next, hopefully many years.
What's next?
Spring training.
Yeah. I mean, obviously. What, in your mind, are you thinking you saw Scuba, you saw Sale? You're thinking, I want that trophy next, right? That's obviously as a pitcher. Now, the MVP has happened before for some Verlander, Kershaw, those guys. Is that what's on your mind? Like, is that the next step you think you can get to?
Yeah, I think so. I think the awards are great. I think it's a product of really just not putting limits on yourself. Because you saw the route. Obviously, you see the routes that Verlander and Scherzer and Kershaw do. They win it. They were winning it every year. But Tarek and Chris, they won it, after some adversity. So there are a lot of different ways to win that award. So really, it's not about winning an award. In my mind, it's about going out there and, executing at a very high level, and then, the awards and all that stuff will come. And if your team wins, I think it becomes a little bit easier. So that's definitely, first and foremost, winning.
Paul, what's the thing that you want to improve most upon as a pitcher this year?
Probably just attacking the zone more, especially at the right times. I think there were a lot of times last year where I just, put myself in bad positions a little bit. After the season was over, I had one of the analysts actually at LSU run some numbers for me on Skubal and Sale and then me, and they pretty much led in just about every category, which shows that, that's, how you pitch at a very high level. that's how you win those awards is, winning the, first 2 out of 3 pitches, strike percentage, first pitch strike percentage, stuff like that. And those are kind of the process oriented goals that I'm focusing on this year a little bit more.
All right, you brought something up there. You had to go back to LSU to get some analytic.
They're locked in there,
Come
though.
on,
No.
Pirates. Let my guys get some analytic devices.
No, our analysts with the Pirates are very good.
I know.
Yeah, no,
You
it was
wanted
just
some canes and you wanted some roots.
He wants the NIL money,
No, so I just happened to be talking to him, and then he went home and ran the numbers for me. I didn't ask him to do it.
Did you tip him?
Oh man, I should.
Oh,
We'll get him a good dinner. Good dinner.
No. Just did you tell him he nerded out? Like he was like, "Oh, Paul Skenes, I love this guy. He was here, and now he's back, and now I'll get these numbers for him." Or did you not make fun of him for it?
So no, because that stuff's pretty valuable. I think the analysts are, I don't know. Sometimes they get in the way, but a lot of the times they have really good stuff. Like they came to me, during the year last year and said, "Hey, you should throw your sinker more to lefties with 2 strikes." And I was like, "Okay, let's try it." And then it works. So usually if they're coming to you with something, they're probably right. So the analysts, sometimes they're a little off, but you should probably listen to them. Usually
They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
also need to make sure like that's like freak stuff you're talking about. Like that's like, hey, you should throw your 2-seamer a few more times. Or like I talked to Radley Haddad, Rad, and he's like, dude, this splinker that he's throwing, this was in spring training. He's like, it's a joke. And he just learned it 2 days ago. And I'm like, this isn't, you do realize that you're a freak, right?
So Radley was the one who actually came up to me. We were at Dodger Stadium, and he's the one who told me that. And Radley's one of those guys where I just, if he says something, I listen. He's really smart, but I don't know. It's show up every day and do the work. I think there is a little bit, because working out at LSU and that kind of thing, you're around. I'm around college guys a little bit more, and I think I have realized that I can make the ball do a little bit different things than what they can do. And they got really good stuff, but I don't know. It's just, just go out there and execute.
At least we realize that now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so my last one is, so you get up here, right, to the show. You prove that you should be up, whatever it was, May, okay? And then you're thriving in the bigs. So now this is your first offseason. You're a Pirate, right? So are you dialed in? Obviously, they haven't done much yet, but to the offseason, like, seeing, hey, are we going to have someone? Like, because now this is, you're part of this team now. So you're keeping track of offseason moves. Okay, the Cubs just got Kyle Tucker. Like, are you keeping, obviously you know it, but are you like a fan of it because it affects your life and your season coming up?
More so just within our team. Obviously, you can't miss the Tuckers, the Sotos, those transactions. I think I have a little bit greater feel for what's going on, but still there are some I had no idea we were going to make that trade with the Guardians and that kind of thing. There's some things that still surprise me, but I'm definitely more in tune and more interested in it, I think, than I was last year. But yeah, I mean, it's more than anything, just because I don't have anything else to do besides worry about us putting a really good team together to win next year. So that's the goal, and whatever I have to do in December, November, December, January, which is worrying about these things to a much greater extent than I was last year.
What do you do in your free time? Sorry, what you said you don't have much else to do. What does Paul Skenes, besides talk to the analysts at LSU and work out and clearly grow taller? What do you got going?
I like to cook a little bit, but
like what?
Steaks.
Yeah.
Gumbo?
No.
Okay.
He's not from Louisiana.
I know he's not from there, but you live there and you go back.
I've eaten it a little bit. I don't know how to make it.
Steaks.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a one-trick pony.
It's okay.
But I'd like to think I'm really good at it.
All right. Two things before we let you go. One, Livy's here with you, obviously. I mean, you're talking about you don't have anything to do. I mean, You could get married. You could be baseball's power couple. That would be on the list of things people want to see.
Try to put a man on.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying in the
like,
future. But if he doesn't have stuff to do, I'm sure she could come up with stuff. Because we're all married. And we all know once you get married, they have a million things to do for you. Like I can't run out of chores.
We don't do.
I can't. Yeah, true. I can't run out of chores. Like it's never so no pressure. Just saying, think of the power couple you guys could be. Baseball's power couple. But before we let you go, we had Barry Bonds sitting here. We had Skenes and we had Sale. And Skenes has said in the past, if he could face one guy, it would be Barry. And he's like, I'll strike him out. And I'm like, trust me, you don't want that, okay? Yeah. So if you can face one person in history, who would it be?
Man. Yeah, I mean, Barry's up there. I think just for, the history of the game, the Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig's.
How many splinkers you throwing? A lot?
Yeah, I'm probably just going to.
You named a lot of lefties.
Yeah, and I throw those a little bit more because of Radley with 2 strikes.
Full circle story.
Radley, how do I get Babe Ruth out?
Yeah, Babe Ruth ain't seen nothing.
You go to the LSU guy. You say, hey, can you run a program on how I would get Babe Ruth? That'd probably be an interesting find.
What was the exact quote? Didn't see all he saw was dumpy cutters and sinkers. He ain't seen Paul Skenes. No, Babe Ruth ain't building no houses with Paul Skenes out there.
No chance.
That's right. Well, Paul, awesome night. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks for being accessible. Obviously, a ton of people want to hear from you, and this is super cool. And your story's motivating. So thanks for stopping by, man. Good to see you in person.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thanks. Congratulations. Nice. AJ with the most flattering question of the evening. One? He's 22, bro.
I know, dude. It was a joke. Everyone calm down. I mean, we watched the football game last night, and all I see is every play they show Taylor Swift. Think about it, Paul Skenes and Livy Dunn. I mean, not that they don't show her now, but think about how many times if the Pirates get good and they're on national TV, every out Skenes gets, every fist pump he does, you got Livy Dunn doing backflips in her suite up there.
They already do that. Wait, what are you talking about? Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce aren't married either.
I know, but still, Tony Romo said they were, so they must be.
Yeah, well, I think they're keeping plenty busy, and Livy keeps him in the spotlight, in a different way, obviously, because she's like a super influencer and all that. I don't think Paul's necessarily into that world. Sounds like a pretty simple guy who's like, all right, big off-season plans. I'm going to talk to my old data analytics guy at LSU and find out why I didn't win a Cy Young over Chris Sale and how I can be like Tarek Skubal. And Ken actually wrote about this and referred to the conversation that we had. I'm sure we can ask him about it in the next couple of days. He also referred to it on Fair Territory if you want to check it out. But I did think it was interesting as he did the homework on the back end since we saw him, AJ, and looked up first pitch strike percentage and strike percentage for Paul Skenes. It was fine. It was good. But Skubal and Sale were way ahead of him.
Yeah, listen, he's going to be awesome. As long as, caveat always stays healthy. But he's awesome. And that interview, that's, again, we talked about we're going to show Barry's interview tomorrow. I haven't heard Skenes talk at all. Like, honestly, I haven't heard Paul Skenes talk barely at all. So to get those 10 minutes with him, 11 minutes, whatever it was unbelievable. I'm glad Derek Shelton, who was at the award ceremony, he scared me into going to ask him to come do that interview. So, Shelty, I appreciate it because it was me, Shelton, Hinch, Scott Harris, and I think the assistant, I forgot his name, of the Tigers, where they were all talking.
Jeff Greenberg.
Yes, Jeff Greenberg. So I walk up to him, and they're all chatting, and I hadn't seen Hinch, so I talked to him for a little while, and I know Shelty forever talk, and then Scott Harris and Greenberg were there, and I introduced myself to them and talked to them for a minute. And I said to Shelty, I said, listen, Shelty, I've known you for 20 years now. Like, I've never asked you for a favor in my life. I go, can you get Paul Skenes to come on our show right now? And he looks at me and goes, why don't you go ask him? And I said, well, I don't know him. And he goes, he's a good kid. Go up and ask him. He'll probably do it if you ask him since you played. And Hinch and I look at each other, and Hinch says, I feel like he's setting you up for something. And I was like, right? That was a weird thing for him to say. So I was like, okay. And Paul was talking to his agent at the time, who I don't know who it was, but so I walk over to him and, introduce myself. Hey, Paul, I'm like, I would love for you to come on. And he was like, smiled and goes, absolutely. Where you guys set up? I'll follow you. And I was like, boom. So that's why I was kicking Hinch off the set, because I was like, listen, we got Rookie of the Year, Hinch. You're just a lousy old manager that's won
some World Series. So kick rocks.
Yeah, good job. Good job all around. And cool story. People like to hear that, how that all came together, because we definitely wanted to make sure we had time with him. It's someone that we hadn't spoken with on the show yet. He's new to the party, so we'll try and get him on this coming season too, because I thought he was really good, and I think people want to hear from him. And yeah, I mean, we're going to mostly ask him, stuff about who he is, right? What he's doing in his free time, obviously some baseball questions as well. So I feel like him talking to players, that's what stood out. And that's what Shelty brought up to you, AJ, is, hey, I mean, if he talks to a former player, he knows it's going to be a cool conversation. That's kind of part of why foul territory is what it is. So again, we'll run the Barry Bonds conversation tomorrow.
Who was it? Jake? Mark's son Jake? Wasn't Jake there? Was it Jake? Yeah, Jake.
Yeah.
Went up to Livy Dunn and Mark, and introduced himself to her and got completely blown off. So that was awesome. That was
what?
Awesome.
No, he said he spoke to her for a couple minutes.
I know, but then he asked for the picture. I think she said no to him. She denied him. So I don't know what happens, kid. You learn from it and you move on.
Please. Yeah.
Oh, he did get his picture.
No, he did get his picture. What are you talking about?
Okay.
You're blowing up Jake. Jake actually nailed it. Jake got a picture with her. Yeah, because when I saw him after, he's like, I had a few minute conversation with her. I was like, did you forget to ask her to come on the show? He was like, that was my next question. And then she had to go. So we'll get her next time. Good job, Jake. You got what was most important, a picture with your idol. Okay. Coming up next, we are going to talk to another pitcher named Paul, who is wealthy. His name is Sewald, and he's a Cleveland Guardian.
The team that just won the World Series, and this was like the basis of the tweet, was the team that just won the World Series has made the most additions, and how everybody, it's like, oh, they just defer money, they just do this and that. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, people want to go play in LA, they want to win. People want to play in Philly, that's an unbelievable place to go play and win. It's not that the only place that you can go and win. Like, yeah, you want to go play with Shohei, you want to play with Mookie, you want to play with Freddie. Those guys are awesome. You want to be around Kirsch. Like, those guys were incredible. I was lucky enough to spend 3 months with them and win the World Series. But there's other places to go that are Max is going to New York, Yankees, unbelievable. Walker is going to Boston, unbelievable place to go and win. Houston, Philly, there's places to go that have won and are consistently in the playoffs and are consistently right there with the chance to win. And then there's everybody else that is kind of just sitting in limbo, and well, we're cutting payroll here, but adding here, and then but we're not really going to we're not doing anything else. But the team that just won the World Series has made the most additions, and you're like, how do they keep getting guys? It's like, well, they're just getting better and trying to go back to back, which is very clearly what they're trying to do. And I just go back to back, but they got Shohei for the next 9 years. They've got Yamamoto for the next 11 years. They're going to have Sasaki for, I don't know how that works. I think it's the next 6 years at least. They have Blake for the next, so they're not trying to go back to back. They're trying to win as many as they can in that time frame. And then who knows what happens after that, but you got to respect, hey, we're not just all in for this year. We're all in for the next, whatever it is, 9 years. I think Mookie has 7 more years on his deal. I don't know what Freddie's deal is. They got those guys and they're going to be there. And you got to appreciate the fact, damn, that's cool, but you'd like to see the other teams make the same additions, because you would think, okay, we got to catch this team. We need to go add. Well, the top team, they just added more pieces. And yeah, you'd hope that you got to catch them somehow.
New Cleveland Guardian, Paul Sewald, joining us right now on FT. Paul, great to have you on, dude. Congratulations on the fresh contract. Tell us everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just really excited to get to Goodyear and get to work. And it's a team that was a couple games away from the World Series, and I'm hoping to get back to that spot and try and win a couple more.
Okay, give me more though. Like, tell me when Cleveland got involved, when you got the deal done, what you did to celebrate, right? Like, run through anything that, at the time when you're going through the process, you can't share, but now you're here.
Yeah, it happened. It felt like it happened really quickly. It was kind of like almost they contacted us and then we signed about a week later. So that kind of was a little bit of a shock. I didn't realize how quickly it was going to be. It was I got to give a ton of credit to Voter. Voter kind of got it done for them and for me, and I can't wait to spend some more time with him and tease him a little bit, Mr. Manager of the Year. So it was kind of like, hey, I don't know anything about the Guardians. Let's meet. We did a Zoom call, and from there, it felt like, all right, like let's get to work on a contract, and it felt like it was a great opportunity, and so I celebrated mostly by celebrating my daughter's first birthday with all of our family, so it was fun. Like, we had people from out of town and we got to share the news with them before it broke. And so we're pretty excited about it.
You could have shared the news with us before it broke. I mean, just saying, like the boys have been here since the beginning. You could have told us.
I know I was under strict rules. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody.
From who? Friends? The team?
From everybody.
No,
you know the drill. You got to pass the physical before I say anything. I don't want a Jeff Hoffman thing where it's like everybody knew and then you just don't know. So didn't want anything to upset anybody in charge.
Okay. So did they tell you something? Did they tell you something in that Zoom where you like, hey, we saw your ground ball rate was here, your fly ball rate was this, hey, we can improve on this? Or was it just like, hey, we got a bunch of great dudes. We have a young team. You're probably going to throw the third or the fourth inning because our bullpen is ridiculous. How did they sell it?
Yeah, so I think it was just like our conversations with the pitching coaches and with the front office. In 21, when I got to do this as a minor league free agent, I, kind of met with a couple teams, and I had a conversation with Seattle, and it felt like, okay, that feels home. That feels like the right situation. And it turned out to be a great decision. And I felt that same thing here with Cleveland. I just left the Zoom feeling like, I think this is going to be an amazing situation for me. Let's try to get the most money we can because I've already made my decision, and let's go for it. So I just think they have a great pitching development and a great group that are going to keep me in line and get me back to the best version of myself that I can be. And that's what they want. That's what I want. That's what anybody wants. And so I just think it's a great opportunity for me and a great spot.
Okay, before I ask you how much Stephen Vogt influenced your signing and how much he behind the scenes, because he was with you in Seattle as bullpen coach, correct?
Yeah, he's a bullpen coach in 23 with us.
Okay, I want to know, you're at Goodyear right now, aren't you? Aren't you you're in the parking lot of Goodyear? Looks like it, no?
No, I'm still in Vegas. We're still in Vegas. So
okay.
We'll leave a couple weeks from today. We had to try and figure out where we're living in Phoenix, where we're living in Cleveland, like where we're sending our girls to school. Like, there's some logistic craziness that when you sign in late January, you got a couple things you got to take care of before you head down there. But we'll be there in 2 weeks. Give it a couple days before we get started, and then I'm ready to go.
Okay, nice. Now, explain to me how many times you texted and called Stephen Vogt and said, "Listen, Voter," because we just had him on this week on Saturday night. I mean, Mr. Manager of the Year. I know you were just my bullpen coach, Voter. I'd look real nice for $7 million in the Guardians coming out throwing that slider and that high fastball.
Yeah, I just a ton of credit to him. Because he's such a great guy and everyone that knows him knows that, and he had such a successful year. I guess he has more of an ear to the front office than I ever expected. And he essentially went to them and was like, look, this is a veteran reliever that we need to make sure can keep our young superstars, on the right path. And I was very surprised. I just never thought Cleveland of all teams would need me, as they were the best bullpen in baseball last year. But they made it very clear that they want to make sure that a strength continues to be a strength. And I'm excited to be a part of that. And I've been a part of really good pitching teams. And it seems when you're just a part of a group that everyone's pitching well, you just join in and you just continue to pitch well. So I just want to be in a great addition. And I just am excited to watch a bunch of really, really good pitchers around me. And it'll make my job a lot easier when we're winning games 3-1 all the time. So it was good. He texted me and kind of said, look, we really want you. And I had the Zoom call, and then I called him myself, and I kind of was like, look, like, I really want to just talk to you first face to face and man to man. And I appreciate you've been through this. And so it was really cool when we got the deal done. They let me call him to tell him that I was going to sign with them. So that was pretty fun.
So there was no like 5 superstars that came to your meeting, like when Roki Sasaki was going to different teams. Nobody would have shown up. But if there was any superstars there, who would it have been, and who would you needed to have hear from Cleveland to get the deal done?
As long as I don't have to face Jose Ramirez, like that's enough of a selling point for me. I can't wait to get to watch him for 162. I've watched him, from the opposite side of the field plenty. And you just hold your breath when it's his turn to come up that inning. And he's just an absolute superstar. And I can't wait to get to watch him. He looks so humble and so like quiet about how great he is. And I'm just excited to be on his team and it'll be exciting to pitch in front of the best closer in baseball. So that'll be fun.
It happened so fast. Those were your words. Does that mean there was nothing else going on? Because we talk all the time about free agents like, hey, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? Actually, I'm hearing nothing. Jack Flaherty's like, they've called me to see what's up. It's like, what's up? Who cares what's up? Like, are you making an offer? Did you have anything, or was there other things that were going on for you?
Yeah, no, it felt like that. It just felt like my agent goes to the winter meetings and I'm like ready for the call after. And he's like, I don't really have anything for you. And then we kind of talked like weekly, and he was just kind of like, I don't know, like a couple teams have asked for your medical codes, or, they've asked what you're looking for, and and it's just a game of poker, and they want you to tell you what you're looking for. And you want to make sure that they, show that they're actually truly interested, because you don't want to block people off. And so it just really wasn't anything through the new year. We come out of the new year, and it just was kind of like, I don't really have anything for you. And we were just sitting around. So it's frustrating. It just is, AJ, I know you told me before this is how it was going to go, and you called it spot on. And so, you go into free agency thinking the very best, and it was a stressful situation and not exactly how we dreamed it up, but the ending was as good as we could imagine, and we're super excited about Cleveland. But yeah, it was a weird situation. You just couldn't get any calls. Just no one's interested. We're just waiting. And there were obviously people ahead of me in the pecking order, and they were taking their sweet time to try and figure out what they were going to do. And so a lot of us were just waiting on what was going to happen from them. So just a lot of waiting and a lot of nothing. And then Cleveland showed interest, and we felt great about the spot and the deal, and said, okay, let's get it done.
Okay, so you brought it up earlier. You mentioned your kids and your wife and everything. So you're in Vegas. Have you seen? I got to ask you this because we just had the Athletics beat writer from the Athletic on. Man, that was a lot of athletics. Have you seen a stadium being built yet? I got to ask you. You live in Vegas on the Strip. Have they started putting like a wall up or a sign up or an A up or something?
I got nothing. They took down the Tropicana Hotel where it's supposed to go. So it is just dirt. Like, they can start working at any moment. I mean, I don't think it's going to, I personally am not sure it's going to happen. Things can happen really quickly, and you go from thinking, they're not coming at all to the building being done in a year. But yeah, it's, I haven't seen anything. And the Vegas isn't like waiting for the A's. We're kind of like, are you coming or you're not coming? And their language in Sacramento gives them the right to stay there for like an extra year. And we're talking 4 years. A lot can happen in 4 years, but you'd like to be, when the Raiders were coming, it felt like, okay, like the Raiders are coming. We're going to be ready for that season, and the stadium's being built. This is way different. We're just sitting in limbo, and we'll see if the A's ever come.
You have 2 girls, correct? 2 girls?
2 girls.
And what are their ages?
Chloe's 3.5, and Hayden just turned 1.
Okay, so you mentioned this earlier. You mentioned school. They're 3.5 and 1. Okay, your wife she just needs to read to them. I mean, school. What are you going to send her to preschool?
You're talking.
It is a pain, but more importantly, it's a pain in the butt for your wife. Is what I'm kind of getting at, right? Like, you'll be playing, you'll be on road trips, and I know they come on some, but they can't come on all. So you have to have something for them to do all day while you're at the field, and people don't realize that. Like, oh, you can just hire a nanny and say, no, it doesn't work like that, because they want to do things around Cleveland and this and that. So my question is how do you find a place in Cleveland? Because honestly,
I don't know of anybody that ever played in Cleveland. No one really lives, I don't think, downtown Cleveland. Do you hire a real estate agent to find somewhere like in the burbs? I just don't know because I've never really asked anyone, where do the players live in Cleveland?
So people tend to live west of town, out of downtown, which is part of the logistical craziness that we're going through. I've never been anywhere other than the team hotel and the stadium downtown. So I haven't been really anywhere, and I don't really know a bunch of it. So yeah, we got a realtor to try and find a couple options for us that we're going to look at this week on FaceTime and kind of try and make a decision, and then try and find a school that's kind of in that area and try and work on finding a nanny babysitter situation. It's like, yeah, it's all my wife's logistic craziness, and that's really the difficult part when you're going through this process as somebody with a family. It's like, sure, like it's easy for me. I go, I can go and I can play and that sort of thing. But when you're trying to bring your family, you're trying to get everything dialed in. You sure would love to decide before January 22nd so that you can kind of give yourself a chance to try and figure out how you're going to make this work. But everyone from Cleveland has been fantastic in trying to make this transition as easy as possible for us, and we are thankful for them. We feel good that we're gonna have a lot of things dialed in before we head to Goodyear, and then we can kind of go down there and just take a deep breath and get ready to go.
So are you a house guy? Are you an apartment guy? Are you, what is, because when I signed with the Guardians, it was the Indians at the time, and I was just in spring training. I can't give you my recommendation on the house that we lived at because it was awesome for us, but I didn't even make $7 million in my entire career. So your price level's way different. My house was right next to the stadium, and I rode a little scooter to the park every single day. So I can't even give you recommendations, but what are the parameters that your wife or you set up when you guys are looking for a place?
So shout out to the Dolan family for paying me enough that I can figure out exactly what we need. So any chance to thank ownership in the front office. It gives us a lot of luxuries, and we are very appreciative of that. Yeah, we're just trying to figure out what's going to be the best option for us. Is it going to be a house? Is it like a townhouse? We've kind of found a couple of both, really, and it felt like it's 15 to 20 minutes away from the stadium, but there's lots of green area. This is where most of the guys live, so my wife can maybe do some play dates with other families and just try to figure out how to make it work when we're on the road for 80 games. But like you said, Age, we're in the AL Central, so my family might actually be able to come on a couple trips. In Seattle, it was like, yeah, I'm not making a 4 or 5 hour flight just to go see you for 3 days. So this will be a lot easier.
That's travel in the league.
I am looking forward to it. Seattle was enough for 3 years. I'm excited to get 30-minute and 1 hour flights regularly.
Yes, yes, huge advantage. Another potential advantage is the Cleveland pitching machine, right? Cleveland has been almost like Rays-ish of the Midwest in terms of the production that they're getting from arms. They do it in a little bit of a different way. But as much as the guys are going to rely on you for the veteran presence, how much do you think you can take out of both the Cleveland org and then just some of the guys that you spend time with there that had ridiculous seasons last year, like Clase, Gaddis, Cade Smith, etc. And to add to that here, did Cleveland talk to you about any of this when you had the Zoom call and the conversations over that first week? Like, hey, we saw you do this really well in your first 20 appearances, and then we felt like you went too far this way in terms of your pitch usage.
Yeah, so first and foremost, that's what drove me to really giving an opening ear to Cleveland, right? I'm thinking, where can I be the best version of myself? And an organization that is clearly top 5 in pitching development, that makes you really open your eyes and say, okay, like, let's hear what they have to say. And so the Zoom call was good. They asked a lot of questions of, give us some perspective on, what you're feeling, what you thought of last year, what happened. There's a lot of communication back and forth. And then they got a chance to say, like, look, this is kind of what we feel like you need to do to be your very best self. And here's our kind of, it happened very quickly. So they said they didn't do a deep dive as they like to call it, but they're saying, like, look, we feel like you're this close to being your absolute best. We just need to kind of dial a couple things in and go from there. And I felt good about the fact that I think this group can recognize when I maybe am straying off the rails and making sure that they keep me right on the tracks instead of feeling like last year, obviously I went on the other side of the guardrails and kind of, it was hard to get back in. So opened a lot of eyes for me, kind of what I need to make sure that I had in Seattle that maybe I wasn't doing in Arizona. And Cleveland feels like it's a great combination of, look, we can help you if you need help. We have a lot of resources, and we've continued to be very good at this. So I'm excited. I'm excited just to get down to Goodyear, work with them. My conversations have been nothing but positive, and I'm excited that, I'm going to be better anyways, but if I need a little bit of improvement, I know that these coaches are going to be dialed in for me.
Was Carl Willis on the call by himself, or was he in the group and just there?
He was in the group. So we had,
okay.
We had like 10 people on. We had like 10 people on. It was everyone in the front office, all the pitching coaches. I came on thinking I was meeting with like maybe 2 or 3, and kind of was a little shocked that we had a dozen people on there, but it was good. It just, it made a great impression and made me feel like I have all the resources and all the people necessary to be my very best. And that's all I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, before we let you go, what's the one thing you're looking forward to doing in Cleveland? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Walking around the lake? Seeing a Browns game? Probably not. Or finding a golf course that you want to play, because we know how much you're into golf. So is there a golf course in the Cleveland area where here? I think that's Pebble. Is that Pebble? Where is that?
Monterey Peninsula. That place was dialed in. So we got a couple places I need to see. I think the Country Club at Pepper Pike is supposed to be the best one in town. So anybody listening that maybe knows how to get me over there, I am willing to trade BP passes to head over there. That's all I have to offer, but I can certainly do that.
Ooh,
wow,
good offer.
Ooh.
I know a guy on the show who can probably make a deal like that with a phone call.
I don't need BP passes though. I mean, don't you want to go to like Fire? How far is Akron from Cleveland? Like, isn't Fire? Oh no, that's in Columbus. Jack's place. That's a little bit.
Firestone's in Akron. That's only an hour. We'll see about Columbus. It's like 2 hours. There's plenty of places in Columbus. Maybe I could do like a quick head over after a day game, stay the night, play, and come back for an off day type thing. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. We're very close. It's an area I haven't been before. Maybe we'll see if we can make something happen.
Okay.
AJ can make a couple phone calls. Yeah. BP passes. Well, we can give those out maybe on the show, and AJ can make the phone call to make the little golf hookup happen. So stay tuned.
AJ, have you ever been to batting practice for a game before? It's great, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
I was only out there for the first round usually. I don't know what happens after the first round, or the first group, I should say. After that, I mean, all hell could break loose because I never saw after the first group.
You catchers, you don't know anything about the third round, that the pitchers are out there just shagging for an hour. Oh, just picking up balls and throwing them in.
You throwing them all in the stands. You and 70 bat boys that are out there. You guys catch like one ball. You guys are like, oh, I'm so tired. I had to throw one ball in. And now you guys throw them underhand. You don't even throw them overhand.
Yeah, but some teams now too, half the guys are in the cage and they don't even come outside to see the light. They like come out for the game and they're like, oh wow, this is what the field looks like today.
Even better. I mean, they're in there hitting from 2:00 until 7:00. I don't know why we need an hour of batting practice and then the guys that aren't playing are going to hit from the first inning until the 8th inning. I'm like, why do you need all these swings? Like, this is exhausting.
Why do you throw bullpens? Why do you throw flat grounds? Why do you have the bullpen catcher out there? And you're like, I'm going to change my position of my super slider by 1 millionth of an inch, just like this, to make it break a little bit. Like, why do you need all that? You get up and you throw a bullpen before you go in the game.
I don't throw bullpens, so I know you're not talking to me.
You throw flat grounds. You throw flat grounds. No. You play catch. You make some other poor kicker get out there and squat down. After time they blow their knee out, they can't move.
I play catch with my catch partner every day. We throw 30 throws, a couple at 60 feet for the field, and then we go to work. I don't waste any bullets at 3:00. I need them all at 7.
I like it.
That's smart. I like that. I hope someone hears that. Paul, thank you for the time. Congratulations, man. And obviously we'll catch it in a few weeks. Some of us might be out in Arizona too, so we'll let you know. But congratulations again. All right. Good luck with the move. We'll catch you soon.
Awesome. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys in
Arizona.
Hook me
up with some golf in Arizona. Yeah. Hook me up with some good golf in Arizona now.
That's the trade we're looking for.
Okay. All right. We'll talk offline about a couple people from the D-backs that should be having nice memberships here pretty soon. So they were working on it during the season. They should have it by now. We'll talk off.
I know some people that are older that already have some nice ones that are,
in the area.
Well, some of us are busy for 8 months of the year. It's hard to really maximize the golf membership. So that's part of it.
You've got a deal. Okay. We'll offline on this. Thanks, Paul. Good to see you, dude.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
That's Paul Sewald, new member of the Guards. BetMGM futures. Let's look at win totals. Let's cover the Chicago Cubs now at 86.5 games. They get themselves a little Ryan Presley action for the 9th inning. Kyle Tucker, of course, was the massive addition for them. Some smaller pieces and additions as well. Matt Boyd for a little more to the starting rotation. I'm going to go to Kratz first because he's probably less biased on this one. But you got over or under on the 86.5 for the Cubs this year?
Under. It is so close. 86 is such a great number. Did they improve by 3 games? Yeah, I mean, you can't not say, like, they definitely improved, but 3 more games, I still think they have some weakness in their bullpen. I don't think their lineup is like devastating. You add Tucker to any lineup and it becomes an upgrade. I just still think it's an under. I still don't think they win the division.
AJ?
You know what I'm saying.
Wonder. What do you got?
0-162. 0-162. The first team ever. No, I'm just kidding.
What's your real number?
I think they're around an 85 win team right now. I think they're still around an 85 win team, which is under 86.5. So I'm going to say under.
I'll go 87, 88-ish. So I'll take the over on this one, on a slight over.
So they're going to make the playoffs? You're putting them in the playoffs. Did they win 88 games in the playoffs?
Diamondbacks won how many? 89 last year? And they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that's the
NL
West.
Do you think they make it?
If they win 88 games in that division, they probably win the division.
The whole thing is, will there be a year where they're better than the Brewers? To me, it's a 2-team race with those two. Cardinals taking a step back. Pirates are snoozing. What?
The Reds. I think it's a 3-team race. And I think they're third.
That's my bad.
I think they're third behind the Reds and the Brewers.
Okay, I'm going to take a slight over. I'll probably, I didn't do my whole predictions, but I'll probably end up dinging the Brewers and then paying for it as usual. But, idiots just keep doing the same thing over and over again. But I'm not betting on this one. I'm not touching this one. All right, let's show everyone what they're working with here with the bigger prize pools and more players involved with New Jersey and Michigan kind of merging together here. If you're playing poker online. So go check that out at BetMGM Poker. That means bigger prize pools that also include $400,000 in guarantees each week. Kratz and I have some online poker tournament action coming soon. We'll give you more information on that if you want to play against us. And if you have a gambling problem or concern, there's the number, 1-800-GAMBLER. Charlie Blackmon, a special assistant to the general manager of the Colorado Rockies, which is Bill Schmidt. So there you go. A little news here with Hot Corner just for a couple minutes. Charlie Blackmon goes straight from the field to the front office, and shocker, Kratz, the Rockies like certain people and they keep them in their organization forever. There is loyalty there, more so than you see from almost any organization.
You laughed about it because I think that's what hamstrings this team a little bit. Not that Charlie Blackmon's hamstringing them in the future here, but their inability to hire outside of their group of buddies, the beer drinkers, all those guys together. But why would you not have Charlie Blackmon come in? Why would a team that has a star that's had success in your organization not make them a special assistant and keep them? Because he gets to be around the players. He gets to tell them about how to handle different things that he went through in this city. Like, to me, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think it's awesome for him.
I mean, it's great for Charlie Blackmon. I agree with what Kratz just said, though. Like, I mean,
We need to get some new ideas if you're the Rockies. Like, you got to try something crazy. You got to go full Rays and just try to do something that's so far outside the box that nobody's thought about because you haven't had success. You had the 1 year 2007 when they went to the World
18.
Series because they won.
Oh, yeah.
Well, 2007 they went to the World Series because they went on like an epic 20-game winning streak at the end of the year out of nowhere. And so other than that, though, I mean, they've made the playoffs a couple times. They've been okay a couple times. But now you're in the division with the Dodgers and the Padres and the Diamondbacks. You got to figure something else out if you're the Rockies. And the only thing to do is you got to do something crazy. And you got to get outside your box, man. You got to think of something just way off the wall to try to set yourselves apart. And then you're also going to have to spend some money.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot. But at least we learned from his little media press conference thing or whatever that he can ski now. I don't know if he's a skier, but he said he went skiing at 38 years old for the first time in his life last week in Vail. He said, you can't ski. It was in my contract. Rockies shouldn't ski. Maybe they do need to ski just to switch things up, more power to the legs, right? Isn't that what sometimes solves things for a player to get that lower half involved more? No. Or you're exhausted from skiing or you get hurt snowboarding and then you can't play.
That's the problem.
Hey, AJ doesn't know anything about skiing. They don't ski in Florida. And
listen, you want to hear a story?
Yes,
I do.
2005, we win the World Series. January 2006, right after we win the World Series, father-in-law calls me and goes, hey, I got a great deal to go to Banff and go skiing. You want to go? And I was like, yes, please. I went for 3 days and went skiing. Didn't get hurt. Stayed on the greens and the blues. Don't do the black diamonds. When I knew I was falling, I would just fall down on my big fat butt, slide down the hill a little bit, get up and keep going. It was a great time. I did it a couple times in my career. I don't recommend it to anybody else doing it because people aren't stupid like me, but I skied a couple times in my career, even though I wasn't supposed to. I had jet skis in my career, wasn't supposed to. Did a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to. I don't recommend it. Listen to what your contract says, especially if you're making a lot of money, but I broke the rules once or twice.
Hell yeah.
That's playing with fire. It's playing with fire. Brandon Moss got his first $1 million contract, millions of dollar contracts, and he took a picture on his snowboard at the top of a mountain with his wife. I texted him that day. I go, bro, take that down. There's no way. He's like, oh, good point. Dangerous.
Nice.
You're playing with fire.
Speaking of things that were taken down on social media, Brandon McCarthy tweeted something this weekend. And when I saw it on my notifications, I clicked it and it said, this post has been deleted. He tweeted something along the lines of, thank goodness for the salary cap in the NFL so that we have all that parity, and how he wants MLB to have a salary cap so that they can get all that parity that we see with the Kansas City Chiefs just over and over again. And even the Eagles, who have been pretty damn good over the past whatever amount of years, right? It's like, I just want every fan base to get a chance, in the Super Bowl and in the World Series. And so we should do as a sport what the NFL does, right, guys?
No. Somebody went at me because I tweeted the exact same thing. I didn't take it down. I'm not sure why Brandon McCarthy took it down, but no, we don't that is not what enables parity. It's the teams that want to go out to win. And I mean, having Patrick Mahomes is pretty good idea too.
I think I just found out why. I think he's currently a special assistant to the GM of the Rangers. You can't put that out there if you work for a team. Sorry, Brandon, for blowing up your spot.
I saw that tweet.
It wasn't me.
I saw it.
You saw that.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw that
someone
tweet.
Called him and said, take that ish down.
He used to be very active on social media. He's actually calmed it down a lot, and probably for the best. I played with Brandon very well. But, there were some things he was tweeting about. In this case, listen, I agree with him because the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, 5 of the last 6 years, going for winning 3 in a row. The Eagles were there 2 years ago. They're back again. And Kratz, I'll say this. I don't say this often, but I'm actually rooting for your squad in 2 weeks. I'd like to see Sirianni kind of shove it up the Eagles fans. You know what? Because they were calling for him kind of to be fired after last year, and he's back in the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts and Saquon and that whole crew. And you know what would be cool? As they're celebrating, A.J. Brown, he pulls out a book. You know what the book should be?
I got an idea.
You should pull out this book and be reading it on the sideline so that everybody gets an idea.
Yep. That's how they'll win
good.
it.
But in all seriousness,
oh wait, I'm only on page one.
When you're being fed the Kool-Aid, when you're
Don't
being
lose your
fed
spot.
the Kool-Aid that's the solution, you at least would like to point to something and be like, see, that's the solution, right? This is the dream right here. This league's getting all the parity, all the different Super Bowl combinations. And it's like, no. All right, let's slap Kratz hats. What are we rocking today?
I mean, minor league seasons are starting too. So Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. This is the one they sent me. It's their new logo. I think they wear it on like Thursdays and Sundays or something. Pretty legit group of hats that they got. I never played there, but they sent it to me.
And that's all that matters. You send a hat to Kratz, he's probably going to wear it. Hey, to go over some of what the – did you?
I played there. I played against them. They had some guy named David Arias. I don't know. He turned into some other guy named David Ortiz.
Big Pappy.
Also got mononucleosis there, so don't drink the water, kids.
From mono? I don't think that's how you get water. I don't think that's how you get mono, but
water fountain, out of the water fountain. The water fountain. It was a water fountain back when we had water fountains.
So,
then
don't put your lips. Don't put your lips on the water fountain.
That's the
my
lesson.
My roommate ended up getting it. We ain't kissed, so I don't know how he got it.
You ever share a water bottle?
Probably somewhere along the way on those long bus rides.
That'll do it. Okay, just to give everyone a little look at what's coming up this week, I'm going to point out one that stands out because I've been working on it for a minute. Tim Anderson is going to join us on Wednesday. We haven't heard much from him publicly in the last couple years. Obviously, he has been a shell of himself in the last couple of years. I don't think anyone would doubt that, but he was kind of on top of the world for a little bit. So we'll talk to him about how he plans to get back there with the Angels. Here we are. We're back. Dodgers territory coming up soon. I'm also going to work on Teoscar Hernandez. We got to send a text to his people right after the show here. I saw his agency with Luis Heel this past weekend, and he was like, "Oh, we just had Teo on FT." I was like, "No, we had Teo on DT. We got to get Teo on FT."
Dude, that's who that was. After y'all left, he came up to me, or no, I met him in the lobby, and he introduced himself to me, and I didn't know who I was like real quick, and he's like, "I talked to Scott about having." And I thought he must have said Teoscar. I didn't know who he said. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it went really well, thank you." And I was like, and then he walked away, and I was like, my wife was like, "Who was it?" And I was like, I don't know because I kind of was so I apologize.
And in fairness, I mean, yeah, you're not supposed to know every single person, and a lot of people watch the show, including him. He's a big fan, so we're going to work on getting Teoscar Hernandez on the show this week, who's a great interview and fun. And I like the way he was kind of trying to open up Shohei Ohtani to, have a little bit more fun, smile a little bit more. Also, just when Shohei was going through all the crap with Ippei, with his interpreter, it seemed like Teo was there pretty quickly to kind of grab him, put his arm around him and be like, "Yo, let's just fuck around and have a good time." So I'm excited to ask him about all of that. So anyway, we'll work on that coming up later this week. But thanks everyone for joining us. My camera's still annoying as hell. Dodgers territory coming up next here. Yeah, I know. Sorry. It will be fixed. Apparently I have to download.
Scott thinks he's in a rave. Scott thinks he's in a rave, and we all want to be in it with him.
It zooms too with you. But apparently, so it's not on the computer, AJ. Apparently, I have to download this company's app to be able to tell it to stop following me. That's a little much.
I mean, how else can How else can it get your information?
It's exactly. How else can it
Stealing
now
it.
collect my data and steal it and then
Yep.
send it out to other companies and sell it? Yes, thank you. With that, Dodgers territory includes Bill Plunkett, who's covered the Dodgers for a long time and will give you more news if you're a Dodgers fan. And we'll announce another new show in the FT network tomorrow.
Ellie De La Cruz news.